record to the cloud.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much again, everyone, for joining tonight. I know everyone has busy schedules. For those who don't know me, my name is Tracy Sullivan. I'm the Senior Grassroots Outreach Manager at Resolve. And we have Lisa and Ryan joining us tonight, our lovely co-chairs who will be introducing themselves. So we will go ahead and kick it off. This meeting is for the 2022 Federal Advocacy Volunteer Committee Informational Webinar. We're so excited that you're here. If you have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end. However, please feel free to type into the chat any questions, and we'll also monitor that periodically and stop. Or if you prefer to save your questions for the end. So the webinar, why are we here today? So we're going to talk about, the volunteer committee, types of roles that are available, what does the committee look like, our state captain program and how you can get involved, what the vision is for 2022 Advocacy Day. And then again, we'll have afterwards a question and answer opportunity for you to ask anything that you may have. So welcome from Resolve. Resolve is the National Infertility Association. It was established in 1970. Resolve is dedicated to all people, their family, resolution through being empowered by knowledge, supported by community, and advocacy, and inspired to act, apologies. And then we also have Resolve exists to provide, and you can find all of this on the Resolve website as well. Resolve.org. Resolve has a variety of programming opportunities, sources, education, support groups, professional membership, but Resolve exists
Tracy, you are freezing
provide
up.
access to care. I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's going in and out, but it might just be
Tracy,
the
maybe
singular
try
spot.
turning your video off to increase your bandwidth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. Can you any better now?
A little bit.
Yes. Well, I can test out a few things, but maybe just to improvise, Lisa and Ryan, if you don't mind reading the slides while I figure out a couple different options.
Yeah, you actually sound okay right now. If you're not there, that's okay. All right. Anyway, I'll take over from here. So,
okay.
A lot of this is not unfamiliar to you guys. What are we here for, right? Resolve, National Infertility Association, has created this effort for all of us to be able to participate in a way to increase access to care, advocacy for coverage, access to support and community, it starts right here. This is a sub-community of the larger Resolve community. You're going to make a lot of friends here. You're going to meet a lot of wonderful people who have shared interests in seeing growth and access, growth in access to care for anyone who wants to build their family or grow their family. Okay, Tracy, if you can hear me, you can go to the next slide. Maybe you can't hear me. Okay. I will say this. The next slide talks about what advocacy, oh, there we go. Advocacy Day next year. Okay. We are talking about 2022 Advocacy Day. It will be virtual again, fortunately or unfortunately. It's we saw a lot of growth in our efforts from advocates who were able to participate virtually. And so offices right now are not even opening up to create the opportunity for some sort of hybrid or in-person advocacy day. So it will be virtual in 2022. It will happen on May 18th, 2022. We'll talk more about that. Tracy, if you can hear me, you can move on. Any fix on your end, Tracy, or do you want me to keep going?
If you could keep going, that would be great.
Okay. All right. So Advocacy Day in the past, same again in 2022, in partnership with the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. And so it's a collaborative effort of both organizations. ASRM is the medicine arm of the effort to help resolve advocates, educate resolve advocates on Advocacy Day and leading up to Advocacy Day to help us communicate what it is that we're asking of our elected representatives. You can move on. Perfect. I'll turn it over to Lisa to introduce herself, and then I'll take it back.
Terrific. So just briefly, I am a recovering infertility patient. I'm not sure what term you'd like to use. I went through 6.5 years of trying to conceive my family. And at that time, which was over 30 years ago, I started actually volunteering with Resolve, what was Resolve New York City. I ended up co-founding the American Fertility Association, and I currently work with Reproductive Medicine Associates of Connecticut. But infertility changed the path of my life. It just completely changed. I just don't know what I would have been like had I gotten pregnant the first, 5 years I was trying to get pregnant. But this is my passion. This is what I'm dedicated to, and I'm very excited to be doing this now. I was lucky enough to have 3 children, 3 daughters, one at a time. And I don't really, go many days without understanding what a blessing that was. That's it. Short and sweet. Over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Lisa. Listen, I may not have gotten the opportunity to mention this when we first signed on, but I keep seeing more and more people get added to the group. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names and faces, but I'm overwhelmed by all the new names and faces. I have to say, I'm really, really proud to be a part of this group. And I'm honored to be here with you today and every day going forward. We're going to do a lot of really great work together. We're going to talk about the goals that Lisa and I have discussed of the volunteer committee, among many other things. Will be to be inclusive and collaborative and respectful of your time. But this effort requires, a real dedication to see change, and change is always hard. But the goals are worth it, and every day we're going to work hard to do everything we can to balance the commitments of the committee with your otherwise very busy lives. Every step we're going to take, we're going to ask 2 questions. 1, does it help us reach our goals? And 2, is it the best use of our resources? Lisa and I are going to do a lot of listening. Okay. We want to know about your great ideas. We want to know about the way you see change happening. And I'm just really thrilled by the opportunity to listen and to help this collective group reach its goals. I didn't mention I am a reproductive law attorney. That means I help people in surrogacy arrangements. I live in Chicago. 2022 will be my 4th Advocacy Day. I have a personal goal that we're going to learn a lot from each other, and we're going to make a lasting difference in the effort to expand these family building options to all those who want to start or grow their families. And if you take anything away from this meeting or any interaction with me in the future, it's that I'm always available, okay, when you need me. If you want to talk to me directly about the committee or set up some time to talk, even evenings and weekends, I'll give you my cell phone number. I can't wait to get started. Most importantly, I can't wait to get to know all of you a little bit better. So Tracy, you can move on to the next slide, and I think I'm turning it back over to Lisa.
Yes, sir. So thank you. I echo everything that Ryan said. My cell phone number, please text me, call me, however you need to get in touch with me. One of my goals is to keep it shorter and sweeter these days. So that's why you got an abbreviated bio from me. Whenever you want to move on, Tracy, we're good. This is, I believe, my 6th Advocacy Day, and I'm excited about, sort of the bigger picture. The next slide, which is not up yet, is about the Volunteer Planning Committee. And basically, you're our leadership. You are our eyes and our ears. You are the brains that we need. You are the skill sets that we need, and you are the people that we need, right? You are the people who are dedicated to not only your own family building journey, but also the family building journey of others. And I, believe it or not, can share my screen. So of course not. So, okay, hopefully you can see that. I apologize. It is in the mode that it's in, but I'm going to leave it like that for you. Okay. So basically, you are our leadership, and you're going to be the people that we count on. And Ryan, Tracy, and I are going to be the people that you can count on. The Advocacy Day Volunteer Committee is comprised of you, right? We are going to be working on a bunch of different initiatives that are not absolutely outlined right now. So legislative bills and resolutions have not been worked out yet. We're going ahead with the idea that typically we present 4 or 5 bills or resolutions or awarenesses, and that's what the plan is for this year as well. What we need really from you is the passion that you bring. I mean, that really is what we need. We need your passion and commitment. And please sort of think further afield. You may have a parent, a friend, a colleague who has gone on this journey enough with you to really want to be involved. Or perhaps you have a relationship with one of the pharmaceutical companies or one of the pharmacies. Think further afield about how you want to engage people, because our legislators really want to hear from all sorts of people, mainly their constituents, but also people who, and corporations and organizations that are paying taxes in their states. So you have a tremendous reach as well, and we're hoping and counting on that. So I'm going to go ahead. So the Volunteer Planning Committee, why join this? So maybe your first time, right? Maybe last year was your first time and you got involved and you went to the meetings and you got to speak and you got to listen and you're so fired up, and we're so glad to have you. Or maybe you've done this, you've been to this rodeo a few times and you're like, you know what? I think I'm ready to take those next steps. So the Volunteer Planning Committee is really that next step. It's about being intricately involved with planning the days ahead. One of the goals you'll hear about is a different kind of follow through than we've done perhaps before. So utilizing your skills, right? And to further advance the mission, making an impact. Your hours go a long way, meeting new community members, all of these kind of things. And I'm going to say too, challenging yourself perhaps by stepping out of your comfort zone. And how far you want to step out, that's completely your decision, right? Really, how far do you want to stretch? Do you want to be able to, maybe you're, have a very, very busy life right now and you're overwhelmed and you just want to be able to do the things that you absolutely know how to do. Perfect. What you want to do for this committee, we will find a way of making that work. That is I think that Ryan and I and Tracy are in lockstep about that. Whatever you have to give, we will be able to use. So for me, the reason that I do this is because, so I'm just going to be quite frank. awareness. We do have to bring awareness. We're going to speak to legislators who have no idea what infertility is or how many people it affects or any of those things. But also action. The truth is that I've been in this for a long time, and I would like to see some changes made. I'd like to be able to see more than 19 states have state coverage. I'd like to be able to see federal coverage. I'd like to be able to see all people be able to access family building services. I'd like to make sure that our veterans need to have to be able, if they're hurt in active duty, they need to be able to access IVF. So my personal goals really are to really try to get answers from our legislators. So we have these, so this is my personal goal, to have the idea of, we meet with these legislators, we follow up until we get an answer, right? Until we get an answer. Yes, you're co-sponsoring. No, you're not, and why? And I think this gives us a tremendous amount of information going forward. Jess, you have a question, or are you just waving?
No, I do have a question. Thanks so much. Good to see everybody. Jess from PA. Can you hear me? Oh, I can tell you can hear me. You're nodding. Good. Okay. Question with the volunteer planning committee. I know last year there were some folks that were co-chairs or leads on those specific subcommittees that we had. Is there going to be a structure similar to that this year? And what are the processes for maybe tossing your hat in the ring for one of those positions?
I love your enthusiasm. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And we're going to be talking about it more. The structure is very similar, and the procedure will really be about letting us know what you're interested in. And so think of this as informational. Maybe you were a state captain last year, and this year you want to be a co-chair of one of these committees. But you'll be hearing more about that. I want to hand it over to Ryan so he can talk a little bit about what his personal reasons about this day may be.
Yes, Jess, very thoughtful question. We are going to get to that, I promise. I think the best way to kind of answer the question, why join the volunteer planning committee, is to talk, think about your own experience. I think about my own experience. I joined the committee after my first Advocacy Day in 2019. And I think everyone that's here has had the same feeling that I had after that first Advocacy Day, which was, man, that was awesome, right? I joined the committee because I wanted to make a greater contribution to the efforts. For those that are thinking, I don't know anything about being on the committee, don't worry, okay? If Lisa and I know nothing else, it's that we are well aware that we are merely temporary custodians of these roles, okay? Every position and every role on this committee needs fresh eyes and fresh ideas to build upon the successes of the previous year's efforts. Now, we as a 2021 committee are going to be very fortunate to follow really exceptional chairs who invited the active participation of everyone on the committee, because they gave us a chance to share our own ideas, right? We got to all channel our inner Jesse Feist in some way, right? Not all of us are, and Joe Cody. I'm thinking specifically more about how Jesse Feist was always very good at rallying the troops. Joe is very good at other roles as co-chair. Listen, we intend to do the same thing, okay? These efforts are not possible without the hard work of the volunteer committee, okay? You remember that very exhilarating feeling that we all have at the end of Advocacy Day. I can tell you from my own personal experience that feeling is multiplied exponentially when you're on this committee, because you're doing everything you possibly can to create change, okay? Lisa, if you want to go to the next slide.
So this is Tracy's slide, and I'll go ahead and sort of take this, because I still think that she's probably, we don't want to stress her out. We know that we can do this. So basically the volunteer committee reminders, there is, speaking directly to what Jess was asking about, there's an application form. You don't need, if you were on the committee in 2021, you don't need to resubmit an application, but should you want to, especially if there's a different role that you would want, you can absolutely, but you can also just let us know that that's what you're interested in. You don't have to go through a big formal process. It's great that there are term limits so that we can make sure that we're custodians and don't have other sort of agendas. The term limits is 3 consecutive years on planning committee, and it does prevent burnout. And it also develops a deep bench, right? That we learned from Jesse and Joe, hopefully, and the people who come after us will hopefully learn something from us as well. So, if you have been on this, done this before, or you just feel particularly enthusiastic or particularly, propelled to do this, become a mentor or become a state captain. I was a state captain, I think every year that I've done this. And I have to tell you, well, first of all, and don't blush, Ryan, first of all, whoever is following in Ryan's footsteps has a big role to follow because he was an exceptional leader for the state captains. Being a state captain it's just a wonderful, it's an amazing experience. And it really teaches you your system of how this works. It gives you an opportunity to really get to know people in your state. Jen's on, there are a few people on who I got to work with last year, and I'm so excited to see you here. So consider the next step. And I will go to the next slide. So Ryan, you want to take it this one?
Sure. So the structure, as Lisa mentioned, is generally the same, right, as it's been in the past. Lisa and I are co-chairs in name only. We're going to be rolling up our sleeves the same way everyone else is and trying to get these things done, right? We're going to have 7 subcommittee leads. We're going to talk about those subcommittees in a second. And then we'll have volunteers within those subcommittees. We're also going to try and identify some mentors, anyone that's participated in the past, anyone that has not participated on the committee in the past. We just want to make sure that, again, we're creating that deep bench. We're creating resources that are going to be available to subcommittee leads or the volunteers within those subcommittees from now until long after Advocacy Day. Okay, you can go to the next slide, Lisa.
Okay, and I just want to add there that we are going to be trying to document and template as much as we do as possible that we do this year, all of us. And we're going to be asking all of you to do that so that you simply can hand off to the next person. That next person or the next group may make some changes, but how wonderful to have that rich institutional knowledge about how this works. Brian, it's all you, friend.
All right, state captains program. Okay, I think the easiest way to talk about this is to give a brief history lesson first before I dive into the importance of the state captain program. Pre-pandemic, we would gather in Washington, unless I'm sure everyone knows this, but there might be some that only have been participating for 1 year, but pre-pandemic, we would gather in Washington on the day before Advocacy Day. Only then would you meet your state captain and the rest of your state's delegation of volunteers. The pandemic forced us to be nimble with our logistics and confront the challenge of never meeting in person and filling the holes that the absence of that in-person approach creates. So we relied in the last couple of years on that existing framework of state captains leading delegations and just made it more robust, okay? At the top of this state captain organizational structure is the state captain subcommittee, okay? Made up of the state captain coordinator and then regional coordinators and then the state captains and then the delegations, okay? Each member of the state captain subcommittee will have a designated regional coordinator who will guide each state captain through the recruiting and education process. And in turn, the state captains will then lead their delegations through Advocacy Day orientations, organize the delegation for Advocacy Day, and be kind of that single point of contact for your assigned delegation. Now, I say single point of contact, but places like California and Massachusetts, just as an example, have very large delegations, and we're probably going to have at least 2 state captains there. Okay, so the first step will be to identify the state captain subcommittee, who will also be the regional coordinators, who will then identify and prepare the state captains. This is a really awesome opportunity to be a part of the state captain program, because you really shape each delegation's efforts, and you get intimately involved with the states beyond your own state. Okay, not to mention you'll meet a really extraordinary amount of people, and you really do drive the functionality of Advocacy Day. There are sure maybe requirements to be part of any other subcommittee or program within Advocacy Day, but I just got to say the one requirement, the one threshold you have to cross in order to be on the be part of the state captain subcommittee is to be organized. All right. We can move on to the next slide. Yeah,
okay,
please.
Can I jump in on that too, though?
Please.
So as easily the most, I'm going to just claim my seat that I am the most disorganized person on this call. I guarantee it. And if you don't believe me, I can give you my boss's phone number and you can call her tomorrow. And what I want to say is that, yes, you do totally need to be organized to some extent. But the truth is, and Ryan's being very modest here, the truth is that there's so much content and templated information and walking it through. I don't want you to get scared off at all about state captaincy in terms of, this is what you do this week. So you'll have a timeline, right? You have to do this week, this week, this week, right? And for each thing that you have to do for that state captain, you have the documentation about you have to use this form, you have to use this form. So what I want you to know is there's no reinventing the wheel. There's a tremendous, this is not, Resolve has been doing this for a long time, very effectively, very well. There's a lot of information out there. If you literally just follow the directions in the handbooks, you'll do great. If you can do more than that, terrific, but you don't have to do more than that.
Okay, so here are the 7 subcommittees. We did have a singular focus just now on the state captain subcommittee, but the contributions of each of these subcommittees are of equal importance to our ultimate success. Please do not consider any one subcommittee more important than the other. These are the ways to participate. First, we have done something a little bit different than in years past, is we've combined the previously distinct committees of community outreach and underrepresented states together. Okay. Unfortunately, we still have states whose representation on Advocacy Day is not as vigorous as some of our larger states. I'm looking at you, West Virginia. We made some strides with underrepresented states by having registrations from all 50 states and DC last year. But we want to see those West Virginias of the country match the intensity of Massachusetts and Illinois and California and Virginia, just to name a few. Okay. So by folding these efforts into sort of a community outreach umbrella, we think that there's a real opportunity to create buzz on social media and new, fresh ideas for identifying advocates and ambassadors for the effort. The goals of the 2 committees were already aligned anyway. So we want to be able to use those resources collectively to identify the next generation of advocates and build up the traditionally smaller delegations, and really use all of the creative tools that we have to sort of, amplify those whispers of infertility. We have a very powerful megaphone, and we intend to use it. Okay. Second, we talked about state captain, coordinators, regional coordinators. They will be focused on identifying and organizing the state captains. Okay. Third, the engagement subcommittee. We've listened already to criticisms of from some past very well-intentioned efforts to constantly engage our delegations by sending updates and schedules, right? The goal of the engagement subcommittee will be to sort of help craft a plan that balances the need to keep our advocates informed and educated without overwhelming them. Okay. We may not achieve that perfect balance, right? But we are sure going to try. This subcommittee, we hope, will sort of contemplate creative ways of providing these resources through, the Facebook group or other toolkits where they can pull this information, or other channels that won't necessarily inundate our volunteers. Okay. Next one. Fourth, the follow through committee. This is the big one. You've heard Lisa already use the word follow through. This is her baby here. Okay. In years past, we had referred to this committee as the follow up committee. Okay. Our work's done now. We've just changed the name. We're going to move on. Okay. I'm kidding. The theme this year, okay, comes, we'll talk about the theme probably at a later date, but with the theme comes a refocus on the effort to follow through on all the work that we put in, right? We're never going to see any everlasting change that we want to see unless we stay focused on the day after Advocacy Day and every day thereafter, okay? And that's going to require a team of people dedicated to seeing through the necessary follow through to the efforts. Look, we all know how awesome it is the night of Advocacy Day to celebrate the work, okay? Maybe take a few hours off, but the work has to continue, okay? Some of our most important successes in the past have only been possible because of a commitment to following through. It's a simple idea that Lisa wants more than anything else, to follow through. This committee is going to lead those efforts to send thank you notes and collaborate with the state captain coordinators on such follow through. Okay. Fifth, the letters and volunteer committee. Our goal last year was to collect 6,000 letters from constituents to be in the hands of each member of Congress prior to our meetings on Advocacy Day. This has, as you all know, an enormous impact on the meeting itself when members are hearing stories and know that there are hundreds or thousands more just like us asking for their help. We have not yet set our goal, but only know that our goal is to overwhelm these offices with letters. Okay. 6, the military recruitment subcommittee is new. It's going to be a focused effort on recruiting advocates that can speak to the impact of infertility on our servicemen and women. Okay. The recruiting is going to include outreach to military personnel and organizations, asking them if they would be interested in participating in Advocacy Day, and then preparing these advocates for the day of. Okay. Finally, if you don't know where the best fit for you is on the subcommittee, we've created sort of a catch-all, a general subcommittee, so that you can volunteer for a role where there is a need. I certainly didn't know what the best fit was going to be for me when I first joined the committee. And there was a need on the state captain subcommittee. Okay. I'm glad I sort of raised my hand and said, use me where you need me. So if you don't have your sights set on a particular committee, please know that, again, you're going to hear this a lot from us. We need a deep bench, at least at the outset in January and February. And it starts right here with this generalist committee. Okay. All right, Lisa, you can move it to the next slide and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. And Tasha, you had a question.
Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Tasha. I'm excited to be here today. I wanted to ask a question. If I don't necessarily want to lead a committee, but I'd like to volunteer and just speak so that people can hear our stories. what shape or form would that be in, or where could I volunteer at so that way I can speak and say something, but I don't necessarily want to lead a team per se?
You sound like a perfect advocate. You sound
Okay.
like really you do. I mean, either, I mean, if I were going to push you a little harder, which, and I don't know you well enough to push you too hard, maybe,
Okay.
maybe the generalists or reservists, but you sound like a
Okay.
perfect advocate that wants to go the day of, that wants to be prepared for the day of and speak to the legislators as a
Yes.
constituent. Yeah, you
Yes.
sound like a perfect advocate. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I really am.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm going to go backwards for a second, Ryan. Sorry. You know what? I'm not going to go back. I promised. I'm short and sweet, right? So I'm going to keep smiling. So
Yeah.
speaking of
Yeah.
promises, here's our promise. The volunteer committee promise is that you will be utilized. I'm going to read it exactly as is because it's important that you understand that we need you, we want you, we are going to have respect for you. And having respect for you really means trying to find the place that you fit the best, right? Like Tasha was just asking the question, could I push her to do something more? I could, or I could respect the fact that she's being very clear in what she wants to do and what she would prefer not to do. And then maybe next year she'll do different or more. But the truth is that the best thing to do is a phrase that I like a lot, which is please consider under promising and over delivering, right? The idea that you, especially when you start to ask other people to become advocates, this is a lot of work. There is no question about that, but we want to make it spread out as much as possible. So Tasha, if we could have paid her and she couldn't have asked a better question at a better time. Truth is that the description of what Tasha wants to do is to be an advocate. So what state are you from, Tasha?
Florida.
Florida, perfect. So there'll be a state captain in Florida and you'll work with the state captain, and maybe next year you'll want to be the state captain. I don't know, but that's really the answer. So I love Ryan's language sometimes. It's our goal as co-chairs to limit the cognitive burden of this commitment. So I think that those terms, efficient, productive, and professional in all interactions, I'm just going to add also human, right? Human. So we are not expecting anybody to be perfect. You're going to be disappointed in me if you're going to expect me to be perfect. But the good news is that we have enough people involved that this should go extremely, extremely well, even without the idea that you have to be perfect or that we have to be perfect. So I'm just going to add that human thing. Focused on legislative change. So the goal is to enact legislative changes. It's just that simple. I added bring awareness because I have to acknowledge that there are legislators, new term people in states like Ryan mentioned West Virginia, Rhode Island too, it's very hard for us to get advocates from there. The truth is we need to bring awareness as well, right? People need to understand certain simple facts about infertility. Our legislators need to understand that. And I think that that questioning and you questioning us and us questioning Resolve, right? All of that questioning is going to be what's going to create the perfect kind of content for Advocacy Day. If you see something and you go, how does that make sense? Don't keep that to yourself. Ask the question. Like if you see something or you hear something and it really doesn't work for you, please know that your voices will be respected and listened to here. So your family building, mental health are a priority, especially in this crazy time. We get it. Let us know. We'll step up. I want you to know too, though, that Advocacy Day virtually, I am the biggest fan ever of virtual Advocacy Day. Why? Simple. The accessibility. Why did we have 50 states represented last year? Because nobody had to travel from Alaska. Nobody had to travel from Hawaii. So there's an awful lot that we can, and a lot of different ways that we can help this cause. And we also want to really acknowledge that your family building and what's going on for you personally, right? So I don't think that you could ever find two people actually more open than Ryan and I. Please text us and call us. You know, really let us know if you're having some struggles. It doesn't have to be public. We can keep it private and confidential. Just let us know. So I'm going to take
Lisa. I think we're running short on time, and I don't want to break our promise immediately.
Okay.
Is it 6:45?
Yes.
What
Yes.
I want to do is I just want to summarize these goals very quickly, because
Okay.
I don't want to keep anybody longer than they intended. We've mentioned a lot of these throughout this session, right? But some of them are worth repeating. First of all, we cannot achieve success without bipartisan support, and the number and increasing the number of co-sponsors on the bills. Okay, it's time for change on these issues. It really is, right? And we're going to change minds this year, and we're going to change minds next year, and we're going to change mind the year after that. There were building blocks in the past that we're going to stand on, and we're going to add another step to that staircase. You know, we're going to keep changing people's minds. But for those that we can't, we've got to find success in, you know, that exhilaration that I talked about of asking the most powerful people in our country to listen to the ways that they can help the people they represent. I do want to just come back because you guys are going to pick up on the fact that this is a very important message for us, and that's that follow through. Okay, because we can't achieve anything unless we follow through on the ask. All right. I had when I was looking at this slide, and every time Lisa brings up follow through, please forgive the analogy, but it's something I think about all the time. I ran cross country in high school. Don't run very much anymore, but I ran cross country in high school. Okay. My coach was fixated on where races were won or lost. He always said that we were not winning when we're climbing hills, but we were winning at the tops of hills. In our sleep, we knew that no matter how hard the struggle of climbing the hill was, races were won by exploding at the top of the hill. And that's what we intend to do here. Okay. Our follow through committee will be that burst that we're going to foster every step of the way between now and Advocacy Day. Okay. Last thing I want to say, I want to repeat something that Lisa and I have both said, is that we're both always going to be available to you. Okay. Please call us anytime, nights, weekends, whenever. Let's talk about the best ways to do this. Okay. We're going to move to the final slide. It is really just the questions. You know, if you need to leave, we understand for now. We promise that we will try to tailor these meetings to the time that we've asked you to be on them going forward. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to sort of raise your hand.
Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Hi, Georgette. How you doing?
Good. You'll laugh. This question's coming from me. Are there plans to sort of update and leverage the scorecard again this year? And is that going to live in a particular subcommittee?
Can't wait to talk to you about it. Let's put it that way. Yes, the answer is yes. The answer is yes, and you are going to be in charge of it. As a matter of fact, I've already brought your name up several times. I said, please tell me that Georgette has signed up for this,
Okay.
this webinar. All right, we'll be in touch.
Yes,
Okay.
please. That was an amazing
Amazing.
resource last year. So
Yeah,
thank you.
no, and I think there's ways we can leverage it, you know, as part of our advocacy, you know, maybe even think about making it public, you know, to kind of put some pressure on some of these lawmakers to get on these bills, and some of these delegations to perform better might be something to think about. And then the other thing, just being based in DC, obviously, we have the interesting sort of dynamic of dealing with Congress in a midterm election year. And so a lot of the action in Washington is probably going to be more regulatory, unfortunately, than legislative. And there's probably just a few big vehicles that are going to be moving. I know I've had some conversations with Barb about things we might want to do on the defense authorization bill, which is usually marked up right in that May timeframe, as well as appropriations. And I'm sure folks that have participated in past advocacy days have had offices ask questions, did you submit an appropriations request form? Did you submit an NDA request form? Is there maybe, a subgroup on this committee that might be on top of, submitting those forms? They're usually due in like February or March, so that when we walk into our meetings in May, we can say, yes, we've done that.
No plans yet, but this is exactly what I'm talking about, Georgette. I mean, these are the ideas that we want the committee to bring to the table. Let's talk more about this.
Awesome. Sounds
Okay.
good.
Oh, hey, Barb.
Barb, did you want to say something? Thanks for raising your hand.
Yeah, so we have not, Georgette, we have not determined our issues. I think they're going to be I think they're going to be narrower in 2022, but I don't want to, so we have our partners that we work with, ASRM. We also have other partners that have federal lobbyists. So there's a lot going on right now behind the scenes. So I don't know, Ryan and Lisa, if a committee would be beneficial, because it might be preempted by things sort of, I don't want to say out of the control of the committee. I hate to say it that way, but I think we just want to be very strategic. So Georgette, you might be somebody who's like one of our advisors, just because you do this for a living. But one of our partners has several lobbyists right now working on some issues and things behind the scenes. And anyway, we've been working on some TRICARE things behind the scenes. So I think there will be, some very specific asks. I do think, even though it's an election year, there's opportunities always to get co-sponsors, because it gives you a sense of where that legislator is in terms of their desires. They may say to you, we know the bill isn't going to move, but it sets us up for the next year and also gives them a sense of showing their constituents what they care about. So there's a lot of dynamics at play, and I just don't know exactly what our issues are going to be, Georgette. So I don't know if getting a group of people together to talk about it would be helpful at this point. That's all. So don't mean to cut something off. Sorry, Ryan and Lisa, but I just wanted to
No, I think we're good. If there aren't any other questions, we do want to let you go.
I have one question. Can I ask?
Yes, please go right ahead.
Yeah, hi, Rose.
Hi, I'm Rose. I have a question, like in terms of the bulk of work, I guess, so to speak. When would that be? I work in real estate, so I have gobs of time in the winter, like so much. And then things change come like April. So that's sort of what I was like, if there was any cadence to it, or if there was anything around that you had info that would guide my ability to help out.
The good news is that there's so much work, Rose, that we absolutely can front load and have you help in the times that you can help, right? And that follow through is going to be for perhaps those, maybe our teachers who are off for the summer, and maybe they have some extra time during the summer for follow through afterwards. But we absolutely will find you the right place. So okay. I think Jess had said something about, it depends on the committee that you join. So let's find you the committee where there's work that can be done when you're available. Ryan, did you have, or Tracy or Barb, any other answer for Rose other than that?
No, but I've made a note about Rose. You're going to be hearing from me, Rose.
Child of a lawyer here.
We and thank you, Ebeth, for that question. You're going to get an email. Everybody who's been on this call and everybody who registered for this call who's not on the call will be getting an email from Tracy, who's very apologetic about the tech that went wrong for her tonight, and obviously it was fine. You'll be getting an email from her about how to register and what to do next. So absolutely, you don't have to be proactive in this moment. We will be taking it from there. And it'll be on the website as well. Oh, there you go. Tracy said it much more succinctly than I did. So, so please do get in touch with us, stay in touch with us. And we're looking forward to hearing back from each of you. Any questions that you have about any of the specific committees, please email us, text us. I'm putting my email address in here, but there you go. There's Tracy. Tracy, you're so good. And there's my email address. Ryan, maybe you want to put yours in, and then I'll let Ryan wrap us up and say goodnight for us.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. We are really, really excited about this. We think that this year is going to be a big year for these efforts, and we can't wait to hear from you. You will be hearing from us soon about, what the schedule is going to be, and the time commitment, and finding the perfect fit for all of you, anyone that wants to participate on a subcommittee. So thank you so much, guys.
Bye, everyone.
We'll be in touch soon. Bye.
Thank you.